Are you interested in buying a property abroad to use for yourself and also rent out for some passive income? I'm going to share 5 content creators who can help you find, buy, and run your property successfully, and provide inspiration for how you can make your dream of living abroad part-time financially possible. And hey, if you're new here, I'm Eva. I make videos about travel, starting a short-term hospitality business, property hunting in France, becoming an interior designer, and pulling these interests together into a viable creative business. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure to hit the subscribe button to be notified about any upcoming videos. The first content creators I'm going to talk about are an American husband and wife couple from Utah, Chase and Stephanie. Chase was a real estate agent until very recently, and they used to run long-term rentals in Utah before they decided to make their dream of living in New England a reality and purchase their first short-term rental about 3.5 years ago in Cape Cod. Over the past 3.5 years, they've expanded to 3 short-term rental properties as well as their primary residence, and they split their time between these 4 properties. They rent out their original house in Utah, their house on the Cape, a house in Merida, Mexico, where they spend a good chunk of their winters, and they also have a property in Connecticut that they're currently renovating. They post excellent content about how they structured their lives to work for themselves, to homeschool their children, and to spend time traveling between their various properties. Their content is aesthetically beautiful and inspirational. They have great interior design sense, but they also share real numbers about running their business. They have an online course called The Art of Hosting, which goes in depth into how to start your own short-term rental business. I haven't taken the course, so I can't speak to its quality directly, but if you're interested in more behind the scenes information and numbers on how they run their business, you should check it out and let me know what you think. The next creators you should check out are also an American couple, Sarvi and Jasper, who moved from New York to the Lake Como area of Italy 3 years ago during the pandemic, where they renovated their own property and then started a development and consulting firm helping international investors buy and renovate their own historic properties in Italy. Their backgrounds are actually in marketing, not property development, but now they have 3 short-term properties of their own that they have renovated, and as such, they're now very familiar with the process of purchasing and renovating in Italy. They have a host of trade connections, and they can also act as your boots on the ground in Italy, finding properties, touring them virtually for you, and also acting as power of attorney to sign documents to purchase. They also offer marketing services for your property. Their properties are a little bit more humble and minimalist than Watts Designs houses, Airbnbs back in the States and in Mexico, but they also just purchased a palazzo that they are restoring, and it's really fun following along on that journey. Also, they run an artist residency, which I think is a really cool part of their business model on top of consulting and having their short-term rentals. And it's something you might want to consider as a way to give back if you're purchasing a property abroad and you want to bring more attention to the locals, or if you want to make this kind of travel accessible to people who maybe don't have the same options that you do. Also, they were just hired as antique buyers for an interior designer back in the States, which I think is such an interesting revenue stream and definitely a service that I would love to provide once I'm living abroad. Next, we have Gite Guru. Rupert Springfield and his husband Frank Vanderhooft moved from Amsterdam to the Dordogne region of France in 2015. As an interesting side note, if you're thinking of buying property here, this region of France actually has the 2nd largest number of expats after Paris. Rupert and his husband purchased a property here that used to be a village back in the 1800s where 30 people lived. They converted the barn on the property into their own home, and then they converted the main house into a 5-bedroom gîte and another outbuilding on the property into what I believe is a 1-bedroom guest house. Rupert used to own an antique shop and then worked in fundraising, and his husband was working in event production before they moved to France. However, after looking at 69 different properties before buying their own, they quickly became experts in the real estate market in this region of France and have been running their own successful short-term rentals since 2015. Robert's Gite Guru Instagram channel is an excellent source of information about regulations and taxes and the business side of running a gîte in France. They also run a consulting business helping people find and purchase their own gîte investment properties in France. Their services include house hunting, but also helping you set up your business, including figuring out things like insurance and accounting and taxes. And they also provide interior design and marketing services for your business. Next up, our fourth creator is also based in France in the Charente-Maritime region, which is second only to the Mediterranean in terms of sunshine hours. Susan of our French Oasis has her own house hunting consultancy to help you find homes. She also runs her own short-term rental out of her home, and she runs an online antique business selling French goods. Her background is British, but she and her husband have been living in France for the past 20 years and have bought 4 of their own houses and sold 3 of them in this time, so they're very familiar with the process. They also ran a 5-star successful gîte business for 7 years before starting their current cottage rental. Susan shares her and her family's French lifestyle, including gardening and snippets of the tours she does of houses for her clients. She also runs retreats for visitors to the region, which is another common income stream for people who relocate and start a short-term rental business abroad. And finally, the last content creators that I think could help you on your journey to starting and running your own short-term rental business abroad are Kristen and Michael. Kristen and Michael run a YouTube channel about starting their own Airbnb in Joshua Tree, California. Their YouTube channel captures via vlogs the process of starting and renovating and running your own Airbnb and all of the work that goes into maintaining it, especially if you're doing it all yourself.
It has been 3 years since we have been hosting on Airbnb, and we have learned, oh my gosh, so much. We are going to be getting into the finance aspect of this and how much we made this year, and you're gonna wanna stick around because it's gonna be good.
It's an educational channel for if you're planning to invest in that specific region, but it's also useful if you're planning on running your own short-term rental without the help of property management. They share a lot about what goes into running this type of business and just how hands-on it can be, while Chase and Stephanie of Watts Design House have their own team on the ground in Mexico that helps them manage that property, including a driver, a cook, cleaners, etc. Kristen and Michael only have a cleaner and visit their property pretty regularly themselves. Luckily, they only live 2 hours away to maintain it and manage the experience for their guests. Watching their channel and seeing what goes into maintaining your property by yourself is really educational and important information to have if you're planning to purchase a property where you will live fairly far away. It will help you start thinking about the types of individuals you need to hire to help you manage that property. They also share useful tips about marketing your property, including hiring professional photographers and the quality of marketing images you can get from doing that, but also information on how to start your own website so you're not relying on platforms like Airbnb to bring in 100% of your guests. And if you are interested in learning more about running your own Airbnb and what the possible revenue and expenses might be, you might want to check out this video of mine about the amount of money we made from the first month of our own Airbnb here in Toronto. I'll be back soon with more videos about building your ideal life and career. And until then, I hope you're letting yourself dream big and taking action to make those dreams a reality.